On the 13th of August 1912, State Secretary Admiral von Tirpitz wrote a letter requesting the construction department to investigate a design for a Grosse cruiser mounting 8 35-centimeter guns in 4 dual turrets. Particularly, he was interested in displacement and cost for building such a ship. He specified that the speed, armor values, and secondary armament would remain identical to that of the Grosse cruiser for 1913, which would be Hindenburg. Tirpitz wrote this letter in response to political pressure, specifically from the Kaiser, to up the gun caliber of Germany's battlecruisers, which he had technically done with the Derfflinger class going from 28-centimeter guns to the 30.5-centimeter gun. However, the Kaiser viewed that another increase was necessary immediately, while Tirpitz did not, as he wrote in another letter. In my opinion, we cannot retain strong armor, medium artillery, and large caliber guns with the Grosse cruiser. We arrive at a ship of over 30,000 tons and largely eliminate the concept of the Grosse cruiser and threaten the fleet law. Perhaps the cost and ship size of the project will go on absurdum. Regardless of Tirpitz's views on the development of battlecruisers, the Kaiser ordered a sketch for a battlecruiser armed with 35-centimeter guns on the 20th of August. On the 9th of September 1912, Tirpitz was presented with 7 different designs, and he was promised that all of the designs did not increase the cost or displacement when compared to the Derfflinger class battlecruisers, and there were a series of design alterations that had to be made to guarantee this. The ship would have to lose half a knot in speed, its main armor belt would have to be reduced from 300 millimeters to 270 millimeters, 15 meters of bow armor would have to be removed, and finally the ammunition load for the main and secondary armament would have to be reduced. But there was a significant improvement to the design, as it was the first German battlecruiser to incorporate a tripod mast from its earliest design development. While the construction department was drafting these 7 designs, they acknowledged that the 35-centimeter gun was rather expensive, and so, in their opinion, a 34-centimeter gun would suffice instead, so they created 2 lines of designs. Designs A, A1, and A2 would mount 34-centimeter guns, while designs B, B1, and B2 would be identical to the A series, except they mounted 35-centimeter guns. The 7th design, Design C, mounted 35.5-centimeter guns, and it ultimately was the most expensive of the batch. Design A, which was the cheapest, would cost about 53 million marks to construct, while Design B2, which was the most expensive that was seriously considered, would cost 57 million marks to construct. As a result of the meeting that took place on the 9th of September, Design A3 was created. It would have identical speed, medium artillery, and armor as the Hindenburg. However, it would have a reduced ammunition loadout for its main battery, going from 90 shells per gun to 85. The barbette armor would retain a thickness of 300 millimeters rather than being increased, and the torpedo tube arrangement would be slightly modified. This design would also have an increased after freeboard as a result of the Atlantic crossing made by the Moltke. These alterations would ultimately result in a design of 31,000 tons standard displacement. After A3 was created, the construction department ended up creating Designs 9 and 10, which were investigating different arrangements and numbers for the torpedo armament, and ultimately the Kaiser approved Design 9 on the 30th of September 1912, which had 6 broadside torpedo tubes. Increasing the torpedo armament meant that Design 9 sacrificed the main battery, as it reverted back to the 30.5-centimeter gun, and many members of the German Navy were not satisfied with this decision, and so the construction department contacted Krupp, who was going to be the main armaments manufacturer, and asked if the gun caliber of 34 or 35 centimeters was selected, if the ship's construction would be delayed beyond the spring of 1917, and Krupp informed the construction department that the order needed to be placed before April of 1913 to allow construction to proceed without delay. At the same time, the Germans became aware that the more recent Japanese and British orders were going to call for ships with at least 35-centimeter guns, and in the case of the Queen Elizabeth class, there was suspicion those were going to mount 38-centimeter guns, and so going back to the 30.5-centimeter gun seemed more redundant than it ever did before. The question around reducing speed and armor protection also came into the playing field and ultimately stalemated because different members had different views on how the battlecruiser should be constructed. Ultimately, there was a general consensus that those values should not be sacrificed, but merging the battlecruiser with the battleship, which was also discussed at this time to create the fast battleship, was seen as impossible, as it would destroy the setup of the fleet laws. On the 3rd of April 1913, the stalemate would be brought to an end when it was agreed that the gun caliber should be increased from the Derflinger as a result of Britain and Japan increasing their gun calibers, and so for the first time the Germans considered mounting a 38cm gun on the 1914 battlecruisers. Quick values were drawn up for a battlecruiser mounting 8 38cm guns, and it was found to displace 33,000 tons standard, so this design was quickly dropped because it was too large. 2 designs with 6 38cm guns were then drafted up with a displacement of 28 and 30,000 tons, but ultimately both of these were rejected as well, and the design department went back to design A3 with 8 34cm guns. It was suggested that the 34cm guns should be swapped out with 35cm guns on design A3, and ultimately this would increase the displacement by 550 tons, which was seen as achievable. 10 days later, on the 13th of April 1913, Tirpitz gave his views on the results of the meeting, and ultimately he wanted to go with a design that had 38cm guns, and he too rejected the concept of merging the battleship and battlecruiser, as he described it as still not yet opportune. On the 11th of June 1913, 2 designs were proposed, D47 and D48. They both mounted 6 38cm guns in 3 dual turrets, with D47 having 2 turrets forward and 1 aft, while D48 had 1 turret forward and 2 aft. The speed and armor values were to be largely identical to that of the Derflinger class. The secondary battery was to be made up of 14 15cm guns, and the draft was to be 8.4 meters, making it similar to the Bayern-class battleships. Designs D50, 51, and 52 were also presented during this meeting. They were largely identical to D48, except they experimented with different arrangements for the armament. On the 17th of June, design D48 was selected for further improvement, turning into D48A. It ultimately had an increased freeboard and better crew spaces. It had a displacement of 29,600 tons and would cost about 55 million marks to construct. On the 20th of June 1913, the Kaiser approved this design. However, this would change on the 30th of October 1913, when a report from the naval attaché in London advised Germany that Britain was going to reduce the size and gun caliber of its ships in favor of building more ships. And as a result, the Germans brought the gun caliber question back to the table and decided to put more efforts into designs mounting 34 and 35cm guns once again. The approved 38cm design was now cancelled. On the 15th of December 1913, design D60 was created. Its armor and speed would be largely identical to that of the Derflinger. It would mount 8 35cm guns in 4 dual turrets with 85 shots per barrel, and the rejected indentations for the secondary armament for the Derflinger would now be accepted for design D60, and they would mount 14 15cm guns. The ship's characteristics were as follows. It would have a standard displacement of 31,000 tons and a full load displacement of 35,300 tons. It would cost 66 million marks to construct. It would have a length of 223 meters, a beam of 30.4 meters, and a normal draft of 8.4 meters. The ship's propulsion plant would be capable of 90,000 shaft horsepower, giving it a top speed of 28 knots. It had a coal load of 4,000 tons and an oil load of 2,000 tons, giving it a maximum range of 8,000 nautical miles at 14 knots. Design D60 was presented to the Kaiser on the 23rd of May, 1914, and it was accepted for construction. Hull 240 was ordered from Blohm & Voss on the 7th of August, 1914. Its keel was laid down on the 30th of January, 1915, and it was launched on the 21st of April, 1917, never to be completed, but it was named Mackensen. Hull 958 was ordered from Ferdinand Schickau Danzig on the 15th of April, 1915. Its keel was laid on the 30th of November, 1915, and it was launched on the 15th of September, 1917, never to be completed, but it was named Graf Spee. Hull 241 was ordered from Blohm & Voss on the 14th of August, 1914. Its keel was laid on the 1st of May, 1915, and it was launched on the 13th of March, 1920, never to be completed, but it was named Prinz Eitel Friedrich. Finally, Hull 35 would be ordered on the 18th of April, 1915, from the Imperial Dockyard at Wilhelmshaven, and its keel would be laid down on the 3rd of November, 1915, but its construction would be halted, and it would be broken up on the ways without ever being named. The 4 Mackensen-class battlecruisers were a new generation of German battlecruisers, breaking many of the general characteristics that we had seen from the preceding classes of battlecruisers. Ultimately, these ships fell victim to the First World War, as resources and manpower would consistently delay their construction until all of them had to be abandoned at the end of the day, resulting in not a single one being completed. Ultimately, this was the final class of battlecruisers Germany would ever begin to construct, and Imperial Germany would only ever design one more class following the Mackensens, but those are a story for another day. So, if you have learned something new in this video, why not leave a like and a comment down below, and have a wonderful day.